Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube tutorial with me, Bailey Tillotson. I'm super excited because a lot of you may know I do watercoloring books. So I am working on a landscape one that will be coming out here soon, and this outline is the first that I'm sharing with anyone ever. So if you're watching this, you're the first to see it and the first to paint along with me. So this outline will be in the coloring book here in a few months, but if you are wanting to paint with me right now and you want the outline, check my description because I'll have a digital download version of this that you can trace or do whatever you want with. You could even do colored pencils if you wanted, but we're gonna get going. We are going to separate this tutorial into 5 different sections, kind of like we did with the winter landscape a few weeks ago. But we're going to start with the flowers in the front, and then we're going to move to the sky, and then come to the mountains, and then up to the greenery, and then finish it off with the pine trees. So as you can see, I have some mustardy yellow that I've mixed together and I put in the head of the daisies. We're going to come back and do some white crayon for the petals. So right now we're mixing some pink and we're just dropping it into the tulips. So I'm going to be using maybe like 4 or 5 different shades of pink and red and maybe a little bit of orange, but they're going to be very loose. So don't feel like there's so much pressure to make these perfect because they're not meant to be. So basically what I'm doing is I'm dropping in one color and then I'm picking 2 or 3 different colors to drop in where I want some interest. So I have the middle of the flower be one color and then a darker shade of red or pink I drop in usually to the bottom or the shaded areas of the tulips. So while you're mixing these colors, it's really easy to overdo it with the water. So if you see your tulips getting really puddly, you can grab your brush, dry it off, make sure it's clean, but you can dab that paint and that water off onto your paper towel and then just keep going, or maybe let it dry and then add in some colors afterwards. So once you're done with that, and once you have your white crayon and your color all your petals, we're going to move on to the sky. All right, so now we're going to move to the sky and we're going to mix just a simple blue, more kind of dusty. So I'm having blue mixed with a little bit of red to make it just a little bit purpley. And then we're going to have a pink. So this is going to be a really simple sunset sky. So what I'm doing is I'm diluting my blue down quite a bit to where it's almost really, you can see through it really well. So what I'm doing is I'm just painting that top part of the paper blue, and I'm going right up to the lines that I've made for you for the clouds, but I'm not going in. And as I keep going, I'm adding more water to dilute it down as I go lower on the horizon line, because pink is what we're going to be using underneath the clouds. So you're going to just be bringing that across. Again, this pink is very diluted as well. So if you find your colors being more vibrant than you want them, just add more water. You can even lift that pigment off and put it on your paper towel if you need to. Really, you're just going to play with it till you feel good. So once you have your colors set, what you're going to do is just blotch in some random little spots on your clouds of the colors in the sky. So I'm grabbing the blue and I'm just and I added just a tiny bit of gray to it, and I'm just using the side of my brush, being very organic with the shapes. Oh, sorry. All right, I'm back. So as you can see, by doing this, you're adding so much dimension to those clouds, and it just makes them look that much more poofy and beautiful. So I'm bringing in pink and mixing it in with that blue that I put in there. And then the sky is pretty much done. So if you want to, I'm going to add just a little bit more blue to those edges of the top of my clouds, really just make them pop that much more. So you can do that. And then we're going to move on to the mountains. All right, before you do this, you want to make sure that that sky is dry. Otherwise, they're going to bleed together and you won't have that fine line. But I have mixed together some blue that's a little bit more vibrant than that blue in the sky, but it's still pretty diluted with water. So I'm just doing one layer, one wash across, and then we're going to move on to the next one. But as I said before, you want to make sure that you wait till this layer dries. Otherwise, the mountains are going to blend in to each other. So it's very much a waiting game, like always with watercolor. So just be patient, and as soon as this one dries, we can move on to the next. I've mixed together a dark green, blue, gray. I've mixed those colors together, and then we're gonna add it to this mountain in the back. And I'm going to be adding more of the darker color on that left side by the hill. So as you can see, I'm adding in that color alongside, and then we're going to be dragging it downwards. And as you get lower, it's going to gradually get lighter just with bringing it down with a clean brush. So once you do that, we again will let that dry, and then we're going to move on to this mountain range that we've mixed a little bit more blue into, and then we're going to do the greenery. So kind of same thing, you can leave a little bit of white, little flakes to show the reflection in the mountain, but for the most part, you're kind of just dabbing in some color. Be just doing a light green along the entire bottom part. This is nice because we put white crayon on the daisies, so really you can just kind of go over top of them if you wanted to, just avoid the pinks and the yellows. So once you have the green that you want mixed, you can spread it over top just because it's a lot easier to do that than to go in between all these detailed stems and leaves. So once that first wash of green is done, we can add in some grassy areas. So I've mixed together just a more darker foresty looking green, and it's still pretty diluted with water. So the way I did this is I just have my green and I mixed a tiny bit of black into it, literally like the tiniest bit. And we're using the very tip of our brush, just doing these up and down, really thin motions. And you can be more detailed, and then in some areas you can have it mixed together a lot more. We just want to leave a little bit of that first layer through to show some highlights in our grass. So we're going to do that and go through the whole thing. And you want to leave your stems of at least some of them untouched because we want them to be more vibrant than the rest. So with watercolor, you do lightest to darkest. So if you want some more vibrant light colors to show through, you need to make sure that you leave space for that. Now you can come in with a more vibrant green and do the stems to the tulips and the leaves of the tulips. They're going to be more vibrant, that just because that's how they are by nature. And then when that dries, you can come in and do a more darker but still vibrant green for the stems of the daisies and the leaves as well. So once that is done and you feel really comfortable and proud of it, we're going to move on to the last part of this painting, which is the pine trees. If you want to, before you move on, you can add some layers onto the colors you've already made. So even with these like vibrant tulip leaves, you can add that same green just on top of what you already have, and it just adds that much more interest. With watercolor, that is what builds your dimension and everything, is when you add layers. So do your wash, let it dry, do another one until you feel like you've added enough to make it beautiful. So I am really happy with how this is turning out. So we're going to move on to the pine trees. Okay, so for the pine trees, you're just going to be mixing a dark green, maybe add a little bit of black to it, and do a line down the middle of the tree. And then just be kind of messy with the branches. You can do some sticking up, down, a little bit to the side. If you have my outline, I have where you need to fill in, so it makes it really easy for you. I am just doing one base layer, and then I'm going to come back with maybe even the same color or a darker version and just add a little bit more, just random dots to add some shading once it's dry. So when you're doing these trees, it's okay to have white space. You see how I have just random white areas in the tree? That is okay. That actually is I mean, you can do it even on non-snowy trees, but that's also a way if you're wanting to make it look like there's a little bit of snow on your pine trees. That's a good way to do it, is just leaving a little bit more white space than normal. All right, we're gonna finish up this last pine tree and then this landscape is done. So if you followed along or if you grabbed that outline and painted it, I would love to see, or even just shoot me a comment, tell me how it went, things that you felt like you did really well, things you'd like to learn more. I would love to hear. So thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing and just showing me so much love. I feel it. So have a really great week and I'll see you next Tuesday.